What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, you are watching TWA Motorsports, and today, yes, we are going to put some electric fans on this thing. So kind of on the coattails of the last video when I put the lights and stuff in, guys, I'm actually starting filming this right after that, and that is why you already see this piece off, the piece here on the floor. And that is because there's no sense of putting that back in because I'm going to take it back off. And I've got a little bit of time to start this. I may be able to finish it. It'll all be finished in this video, but as far as my days are concerned. So that is the very first thing we're going to start with. We've got a factory style harness. Well, actually, it is a factory harness out of a truck. And guys, there's several different options you can buy. I almost bought an aftermarket one, and the only reason why is because nobody had. I generally buy them off eBay unless I can go out and have time to go through a salvage yard and get my own. I didn't, so because I didn't, I bought one off eBay. I will try to list a link in the description to all this stuff that I'm using. If I can find one on eBay, you can do that route. There are some really good options that you don't have to do that route. It's just, I wanted it to kind of hide back where the factory would hide it, which one of the kits on eBay and Amazon gives you the ability to hide the relays back there. You just have to put a fuse somewhere. So, and you could put the fuse back here where you didn't even see it. Nobody'd ever know, but that's just kind of how I am, guys. So either way, the very first thing we have to do, I'm gonna go grab my hood light and put it on, but we need to get this plastic piece out of the way, which is obviously already out of the way. The very next thing after that is I'm gonna go grab a flathead screwdriver, and we are going to get our air intake out of the way. One other thing I actually didn't even think about before we do our intake, guys, let's go ahead and undo the negative side of the battery with an 8mm. We don't need any sparks or any issues. I don't want to fix anything. I just want to add stuff. So now that we got that off, we can go ahead, use our Phillips, and get this out of place. One of the things to tell you about, obviously, other than the two Phillips, there's this little plastic clip right there on the upper radiator hose. That goes in to this piece. You can see it right there. Make sure you pop that out, otherwise you're gonna be pulling against the radiator hose. But look how much room that frees up just getting that out of there. So now we're gonna move on to getting the radiator shroud. So this upper radiator shroud, it should have clips right down there. You could see one of the clips there, but the one back here is missing. You should have that on both sides. And that one's missing as well. That's what I was talking about on the other side. Probably couldn't see it with the lighting. But we have a 10mm to get the two top pieces out. But once we get those, we should be able to snake the old radiator shroud out of the way. Got those 10s out. Got the clips out of the bottom. But I wanted to preface this. I should have prefaced this at the beginning of the video, guys. Look, we're gonna have to replace the radiator as well on this. And kind of a telltale sign whether you have a 28-inch or a 34-inch radiator is right here. You see this opening right here? That is, if you had the right size radiator to do an electric fan swap, which is the 34-inch, you would have your radiator be bolted on right here, not here. This is where our fans are gonna mount. This is where the new radiator is gonna mount. So we are gonna be replacing the radiator at the same time we're doing all this. If you're lucky enough to have the 34-inch radiator, which not many do that don't have electric fans, but some do, you would have your radiator be bolted on here. So just to let you guys know. So now that I've got that loose, we can sneak that. You're gonna have to bend this kind of out of the way, but then we can get this out of the top. Now for the bottom radiator shroud, if you wanna go ahead and take it out, you can. It just sets in the bottom, and it sets in a couple channels on the side of the radiator. You can see them right here. So you can pull it up out of there and then try to snake it out the same way. Or you can do it the easier way, which is I think what I'm gonna do, and we're gonna get the fan loose first. So look, I've done this in the past with an air hammer, but everybody says in that video when I did that, oh, you can just tap it one time with like an adjustable end wrench and it'll come loose. So we're gonna give it a shot before I grab my air hammer and try it and see what happens. So it turns out I don't have an adjustable end wrench that big. So I've got a pair of vice grips on here. I think it may be turning it. Golly, slipping the belt. There we go. All right, so they were right. If I had an adjustable end wrench that big, would have made life a little easier, but I had some vice grips that opened that big. So now we got that guy out of the way. I mean, look, if you have an air hammer, that works too. Cool. Now we can grab that lower radiator shroud. Holy cow, look at all the leaves down there. We'll take care of that. Now, look, we're gonna make a mess. I don't know if this is the original radiator. The new radiators, guys, do not come, it is the original radiator. The new radiators do not come with a drain, even the GM ones. So I'm gonna pull you off the tripod here and show you. You have to loosen the upper and lower radiator hose to drain the new ones, but down there at the very bottom, right there is the drain. So I'm gonna go ahead, get a pan under there and let this thing start draining. There should be an opening right underneath that for you to put the pan, and that definitely helps as far as keeping, you know, junk from getting all over everything. Still gonna make a mess when we take some lines off, but it'll give us a good jump start. There's also supposed to be a hose on the side of that, and there's not. But I've got it draining. A way to kind of speed it up is if you open the cap on your fill over there. That kind of speeds things up, but we're gonna have a mess. I hate laying in antifreeze. I may have to back this thing up or pull it forward or something once we get it drained, but I'm gonna let it drain for probably, I'd say 20 or 30 minutes until it's, you know, we don't have anything else coming out. Now that this has been draining, actually overnight, we're gonna go ahead and look at the mess on the floor. Blah. All right, we need to go ahead and get our, these are not the factory clamps. Usually they would be like these GM style clamps, like on that one right there, that top little hose. So we're gonna get all the hoses off. Now for the transmission lines, guys, I'm gonna actually cap them when I pull them out. There's a little ring on them. Let me see if I can put my light down somewhere. So if you pull this protector back, you can see there's a little ring right here. And so what we'll have to do is we'll pop that ring out. You can see it right there. As a matter of fact, I got that one out, luckily. Or at least I got it started. Try not to lose these. You will need these. I don't think the new radiator comes with them, but it may. See that guy right there? So we're gonna keep that. I'm gonna go grab some plugs for the end of that, but the next step is to get all the lines unhooked. Now that all our lines are unhooked, guys, all we need to do, actually it's a 13, we need to grab a 13 millimeter, get this thing loose and pulled forward, lift it up out of the way. We've got that thing out. So a couple things I noticed, like this normally, guys, does not stay. I don't know what the deal is with that. I think it's just been there for years. I don't know. So we got to get those off. I think I'm just going to stick a screwdriver in the middle to get those loose. But I'm going to take time to clean all the leaves out and spray off, you know, where the radiator mounts down below, just making sure that we get all the junk and debris out of that tray down there. The other thing is your new radiator may or may not come with these. This is like the little rubber isolator that goes in the very bottom of the radiator here. This side came out on the radiator, the other one stayed in. So we'll take a look at our new one here in a second after I get this all cleaned up and see kind of what we're dealing with. I've got a couple passes on that bottom, looks a lot better as you can see. But look guys, last time I did this, I did it a little differently. And the fact that I went ahead and put the radiator in at this point, well, this time I'm not gonna do it that way. I'm gonna take this stuff apart because the wiring, to kind of keep me from laying in some of that crap on the ground, I'm gonna go ahead and start taking the wiring stuff loose where we need to be with that. So in order to do that, we need to take the 13s out here. We need to get this guy out of the way, and we need to get the computer uncovered as well. Once we get those 13s out, you should just be able to unclip this. Now some of these have a clip on the back or something clipped to it on the outside. This one just doesn't happen to have that, which is good. So you can see, holy cow, we got a couple of dirt dauber nests. Just throw that down there with the rest of that junk. Oh, back here is where our wiring goes. So at this point, I'm gonna grab my vacuum because I'm gonna probably brush and vacuum this off while I'm doing this. But we need to lift this up. But before we do that, I wanna open up my wiring, make sure everything's good to go there. And like I said, kind of vacuum this out. I'll vacuum the top of this off a little bit. So now, try to lift this up. Sometimes it works easier than others. All right. So here's what's gonna happen. Hopefully you guys can see this. Our new piece is gonna set right here. It actually is meant to set in this area. That's what this is for. And it's gonna run underneath this. So I need to go grab it and hopefully we can just set it into place. Once I get it in there, I'll try to step back and show you. This guy is shaped to go right over the little opening here and a little piece for this to set on. It all just fits really nice. It's heard that snap. And then from there, we go to the front, and that's pretty much it. So we can set this back down into its holder. Just like that. So I'm gonna take you off the camera or off the tripod here and show you what I'm talking about. So you can see there's a little circle right here and a little clip meant to hold this. So this is all part of the controls for this electric fans. Now, we still got some work to do here because obviously we got to go down to the electric fans, which are these guys. We've got a negative that we have to hook up down there. And then, you know, this normally has a clip on it. You can put it on the side of that box. We don't necessarily have to do that right now. But what I am going to do is probably gonna brush this down a little bit more because it just makes me nuts. And we can go ahead and get our positive hooked up right here underneath this positive. So this guy right here goes down to your battery. That's where this whole center gets power. We need to put this that came with the kit, get power from there. Now, we need to pin these guys into the stock computer. And so in order to do that, we need to take the cover off of it as well. Sometimes it's a pain. It's just clipped on two sides, so once you get the top clip up, it generally comes off pretty easy. That is nasty. I'll be cleaning that as well. So I'm gonna try to get this loose and maybe a little closer up here where you guys can see it. At least that's the goal. Once we have the computer uncovered here, I've taken this clip loose and the computer actually will pop out. But before we do that, I'm gonna take, there's a 7mm here on the end of this plastic to get these loose. That is what we need to be a part of because we have to put those pins in to let this thing recognize it has fans. So I'm gonna take the 7mm loose and pull those loose and then hopefully get them up where you guys can see them a little better. We've gotta repin this because, like I said, guys, this has no idea that it has electric fans. So in order to do that, we need to get this gray plastic out of the way. And so I'm using a really small flat blade screwdriver to get the clip started. Another thing I noticed that's kind of alarming to me is there's a bunch of oil. I don't know if this came out of something we were taking apart. There shouldn't have been any oil on this side, but definitely some oil in here, which makes me a little nervous. We're gonna have to clean that out. I don't like that in obviously the electrical connections. So once we get this guy loose, you can see I've got one side loose here. We'll pull it out of the way. Once you get one side loose, generally you can just push against the other side and get it loose. So that, look at all that oil on my hand. Put that one down there, and then we need to do the exact same thing on the other. But then once we get that, we also need to pull these guys out. And so for that, I generally use a pick, which I thought I had right here. So there's a little bitty thing right here on the side. We kind of pry up against it with a pick. You can get this guy loose. making a liar out of me here. That's that side. I may have to grab a different pick for the other side. Yeah, I can't get my pick in there around that screw. I'm gonna go grab another pick and we'll get this little blue plastic locking cover off. I don't know what's going on. They are completely soaked in oil. You see all that oil on there? I'm gonna have to spray something in to clean that. I am not hooking that back up like that. I don't even know where the oil could have came from. But I'll do that off camera, get these things cleaned up. But once we got both of them snapped out, you don't have to snap both of them out. Mainly the reason I did that is because I don't know which way what wire needs to go in. There's a series of numbers on the back of this that count up and down on both the top and the bottom. And so what we need to do is we need to figure out in the blue connector, obviously you have a green and a blue, in the blue connector, what wire goes into that. So that is what we are going to do next. I've got it written down over here. I don't remember. I've done this enough, I should, but we'll get it pushed in. And then once we do that, we'll get it cleaned up and then we'll move to the other wire because one goes in here and one goes in here. It's so ridiculous, but the dark green wire goes in the blue connector and the blue wire goes in the green connector. But the blue, or the green wire going in the blue, goes into pin number 42. So we're gonna need a light for that. On the back side of this thing, we should have a 42 and it shouldn't have anything in it. And it's way up here on the corner. I'm gonna have to clean it off a little bit, it looks like. Yeah. I'm gonna have to clean it because it's down here in this corner where all the oil and stuff's on it. The good news is I'm gonna use some of that oil to my advantage right now, but it's the next to the last one. Number 42. And we should be able to push this guy through there. Sometimes you have to kind of poke it through a couple times. It's got a lock on it, and so it's going to want to stay on that lock. I'm going to get a pair of needle nose and see if I can push this the rest of the way through. Sometimes it goes easier than this, sometimes it doesn't. Holy cow, there's a lot of oil in there, guys. All right, we got it in there and it's locked. So now we need to get the same, holy cow, this oil. We need to get that same connector, or the same blue connectors, loose on the other side. And if I remember right, it's on this side, but we'll get it loose next. Now we've got the same thing done to the other connector, the green one on the bottom, and the blue wire goes in the green connector. I know that sounds weird, but it does. So we're gonna do that, and it goes in pin number 33 is kind of where it goes. Let's see if we can, should be right in the middle of everything here. And we are in. So blue wire in the green connector, pin 33, and then pin 42 in the blue connector for the green wire. I know, it's crazy. But look, I'm really picky about my wiring, so I'm gonna try to trace this down into the factory loom as best I can, so we don't have just these two wires hanging out. So I'm gonna put this one, try to tuck it up real nice and go down this, and same thing with this one. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. It just looks a little nicer in my opinion. You can see I've got it mostly in here, and then I've got it ran up to about right here, and then we're gonna continue up this loom. That way it's all hidden, doesn't look like anything's been messed with. And then like I said, guys, I'm gonna have to clean that oil out of there. I still have no idea where that's coming from because there's no oil around that. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I still am only to here with the wire, but I went ahead and put this all back together. Got it all cleaned out from whatever the mystery oil was. So now I'm gonna go ahead and swing it back into place and tighten it up with our 7mm there. Also cleaned out the computer because it had some in there. Now that we've got the computer tightened down, I went ahead and ran those green and black wires. You can see I have some extra. I actually extended those, they weren't quite long enough. And then I've got it plugged into our little plug that you guys saw earlier. Got it right there. Now I can go ahead, I've got my cover here setting over there. I cleaned it up and made it look a little nicer. And then from there, I zip tied the line to this big line. You can see it down here. I haven't cut the tails off the zip ties yet. Let me turn this light on. And then we came down. So the factory runs this in with the wiring harness for the headlights. So we're just zip tying to that at this point, and we've got our 2 plugs, and we still have a ground. Generally, guys, the ground is over here. I'll show you that here after a while, but for now, I just wanted to get things kind of routed the way I wanted it. But I'm gonna go ahead and snap my cover back on. Now, my cover does not have the provisions to open up and change those. So if you ever had a relay go bad or a fuse go bad, you would have to take that whole cover off. But honestly, guys, it's not that big a deal. It's just a couple clips and those 13mm. If I find one at a local salvage yard or something, I might buy it because they do have a little access panel there. The problem is this almost covers it. So it's almost, you almost have to take that apart anyway. So I'm gonna snap that back on, and then I think we'll probably crawl under here at some point and see if we can find the ground. I know there's one under this bumper, or under this side of the bumper. We may use that one. I also may roll it up a little bit so I'm not laying in a bunch of fluid, but we're getting really close to actually grabbing the radiator and then the fans. I decided to go ahead and do, before I do that ground, I'm gonna go ahead and get the radiator in, because I can reach that from the bottom. Now guys, these are starting to get a little harder to get. I don't know if they're just short right now, but this is a GM replacement. We'll see what it comes with. Okay, so it comes with the new rubber grommets, you can see at the top. But what about the bottom? Okay, so it comes with new ones of those as well, which is good. We don't have to use the gross ones. So this, I gotta get, I think one of those is still stuck in the bottom. I gotta get that out, but this is literally just drop in place. Obviously it goes this way, but let's see if I can get that other, I gotta get that grommet out of the bottom first. Got that grommet out, and actually there's 2 holes beside that, so I think we probably didn't even have to take it out, but I took it out anyway. See if we can get this thing in place where it sets. I have to move your transmission lines a little bit. There we go. On one side. I'm trying to get there. So now, let's go ahead and get our 13s, these long 13mm. Let's get those put back in place. And guys, your radiator hoses and everything like that should still fit up. I'm not gonna put them on yet because I'm thinking I'm gonna change the thermostat, and I'll do that off camera. But everything else should be lined up. Fits nice. Now for the ground on that, you can pretty much ground it anywhere, guys, if you want. There's a couple different options. There's one, I want to say there's one up here on the frame if you wanted to go there. There's one on the other side on the frame if you wanted to go there. And then there's one on the bottom, which I think is where I'm going to go. I'm going to show you that here in just one second. Now you can see there's one, see the one on the frame rail right there, or the frame horn, the piece right behind the sway bar. You could put it on that one. I just don't like it running under the engine. So I'm gonna sneak it with this wiring right here underneath the radiator support. And then I'll show you underneath here where we need to hook it up. If you guys watched the last video when I did this, there is a 10mm ground. You can see it right there. Hopefully you guys can see that up in the corner. That is where I'm going to choose to ground this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and put my fans in now, And I cleaned this up a little bit. Obviously it's used, but guys, you could spend all kinds of time on this. And if this were like a, I don't know, I guess a show truck, I may do that. But it's a daily. And so, because it's a daily, I'm not gonna spend hours and hours cleaning on it like I normally would. I clean the top that you see and the outer skin that you see, but I think I've got it in place. It sets in a little channel on the side of this, and then we need to get our two, hopefully if you guys got these from a salvage yard or something, you need the 213s that fit here. They're the exact same as these. Now I'm gonna go ahead too and start putting my radiator hoses on, and remember I said these should all fit. You shouldn't have any issue with like your hose being a different size. I'm also gonna plug in what I think is the correct direction. They should plug in a certain way. There went my light. I gotta plug the actual fans in, which is just the plug that we had left down there. We'll just test it and make sure everything works, but I think we're pretty close here, guys. I've got a majority of the lines tightened up. I will tell you guys the transmission lines, the little clips that we pulled out, I showed you earlier, this comes with new ones, so you don't have to worry about pushing those clips back in. All I have to do is remove the caps and snap the line off, but I am gonna put a thermostat in this thing. It was just two 10 millimeters. We already had a mess on the floor, so I figured why not? But everything is plugged in and going. So I think the next step I'm gonna show you guys will actually be, we have to tell the computer that these fans are there, which means I need to get in with HP tuners and program it for the fans. The other thing, obviously, we need to put our intake back on, and I'm gonna start filling it with some coolant. Obviously, I gotta put the lower radiator hose on first. I'm just using a mix of distilled water and Dex Cool. So I'll top that stuff off. We'll go through that process, but I think the next thing we need is the computer out here. We are ready to do the computer flash. I'm gonna go ahead and start filling it up with coolant though. Like I said, guys, I did get the thermostat back in place. This is the old school one that requires the whole housing. And so I just thought since we were here, I might as well replace it. I did wipe off some of the upper hoses, but you know, maybe one of these days we'll clean under the hood. I'm not gonna get too crazy though, which is really unlike me, but look, it's a daily driver, guys. I just gotta keep telling myself that. I can't spend hours and hours cleaning on little pieces when it's just gonna go through dust and dirt, and you know, it's not probably gonna get washed as on the frequency that these guys do. But either way, we've got that in. I'm gonna go ahead and put our intake back in place, like I'd said, and then I'm gonna take you over to the computer and kind of show you the process on how we get the electric fans to talk to the computer. You can see I've got a container to mix this in. I'm mixing it equal parts Dex Cool and water. So we're gonna go ahead and dump this stuff in there until it's full, and then we'll obviously have to keep filling it as the truck heats up. So I'm gonna go over this, but look guys, if you're not familiar with HP tuners, it may be more beneficial for you to have somebody do this. A lot of these places that you buy these harnesses from allow you to send your computer to them and they turn the fan on, but here's what I did. So I opened the original file. So if you go up here to file, this is VCM editor within HP tuners. If you go up here to the file tab and you open the truck, that's what we've got here, okay? And then if you go to the compare, which is, there's file, edit, compare. If you go to compare, you can open a compare file. What I did was HP Tuner's website, and I actually have one of these saved, but HP Tuner's website has the ability to download a stock file. And so that's what I did a while back for a truck like a 05 or 06 that had fans. All I wanted was the fan settings. So when you open those, you can open what they call a comparison log. And then, let's just minimize this here and this here. Well, I'm not gonna be able to. Up here along the top, you have all these different options here. You have engine diag. We're gonna go all the way down to system. And then within system, it'll have general and then fans. Well, as you can see, the red is everything that I've changed. This, if you toggle over to the compare file, which is, you have the original file, the compare file, and then both of them laid over each other. So you can do that, and you're wanting to make these things 0. So if you open the compare log, see how all these say 0? And I had to change the fan type from no fan to 2 fans. So hopefully that makes sense. I know I'm not probably explaining it in the best method, but there's a lot of tutorials out there on how to do this, and there's some good ones online as well. But I just kind of wanted to show you what was going on. I have all this done. I am now going to close the comparison file. And we're gonna flash this into the truck with my cable. Once we turn the key on, flash the file in, which is the little red down arrow I've already done. I only flash the calibrations. Now what I wanna do is I wanna open up HP Tuner Scanner, because what HP Tuner Scanner allows you to do is test those fans, so we can just turn them on manually now that they're part of the system. So let's try to turn the key on, and we're gonna connect to the vehicle. And we are connected. So up here at the top, there's a green, looks like a green on button. If we select that, and then I don't know if it should do it without the vehicle running, but we'll give it a shot. Let's see here. I don't remember what it's under though. Engine diagnostic, transmission systems, fans. Okay, we've got one fan on. I don't know if you guys can hear it. There's one. And then we should get another one here. Fan 2. Oh, you can definitely hear it now. So they are working. Perfect. So now all we need to do, we'll turn those off. But now all we need to do is fill this thing up with coolant, let it kind of idle, and refill it back with coolant. Here we are with everything kind of cleaned up. Guys, look, I backed this thing up, and I didn't show you this process, but I backed it up with the garage door open, like right up to the end, let it sit there and idle for about 30 minutes while I cleaned up all the mess that was underneath it, and it never overheated. So I also tested, when you turn the AC on, the fans come on, I tested that. Everything is working. The thermostat opened up at 160 degrees. I don't know if I told you guys this, but I put a 160 thermostat in it. By the way, the thermostat housing, 89 inch-pounds to torque those things down. Made sure I didn't have any leaks, topped off the coolant. Everything is perfect. It's working great. The only things that I didn't show you since the last thing is obviously we put the clips back in here. I also put the computer cover back on, which I'm still baffled why there was oil in the computer, because there's nothing over there that's oil related. I don't know if somebody maybe had some up there and spilled it at some point, or what went on. I don't get that, but everything is running good. We have no leaks, and I'm excited to have another thing checked off, guys. I know I probably didn't show you as much as I should have. Hopefully you guys understand the pinning of the computer and the actual HP tuners portion. I didn't show you a lot of that, I know, but this is kind of one of those things. I know that I've told you guys in the past that this is my son's daily driver. So when I blow it apart, same way with the cleaning, I can't just keep it apart for days and weeks at a time while I clean stuff. You know how I am, I'm OCD, and there's some stuff that I didn't clean like I would have liked to have cleaned it, but I got to get it back together because he's got to go to school tomorrow. So we got to get it done quickly. But if you guys did enjoy this video, if you think this swap is something that would help your vehicle out, I think it's going to make a big difference as far as like, obviously the way it sounds, you're not going to hear that fan running, and it's going to free up some power. I really want to take it back out at some point and do another draggy to see if we gained anything. I think we probably will. I know we'll gain at least 1 mile per gallon. Generally, that's the case on doing this swap. And I got another thing out of my shop. I've had those fans sitting over there for several months, ever since I got the hood, and I showed you guys that video, and then I've had the radiator for a while as well. So, but I'll list all that stuff in the description like always. But if you guys did enjoy this video, or you think this truck is looking a lot better, go down there and smash that thumbs up button. Guys, if you are not subscribed, you got to get subscribed. We got a lot more coming on this and all the other stuff in the shop. Of course, while you're down there doing all of that stuff, hit that bell icon that notifies you every single time we drop a new video, and stay tuned to see what we do to this truck next.